Sri, thank you so much, and Natish, if you're here as well, glad to be here as well. I see we got a few participants. Just want to make sure we're still awake. It's not nighttime yet, so if you're in the chat, just go ahead and type an emoji or a letter of where you're coming from, so that I know how to address the audience. So I can kick us off here. I'm coming from Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the United States. So while everyone gets that accustomed and ready to get started, like Sariq said, my expertise is in getting out of university, out of academia, and landing that first, second, or third job. In my career, I've primarily been a consultant, a contractor, and I'll dive into the experience, but I've had to look very quickly for roles. In the US, it's very different. We don't have the usual 3 or 4 month time to look for a role after finishing up a role. We usually have like 2 weeks. So it's a very different market, very different way that employees and employers work together. And so finding a role very quickly that pays well, that's a good fit, is a huge skill set. And so I'll dive right on in and I presented something here today. And at the end of the whole event today, Advantage and I have partnered together. We're giving away a lot of free content today. We're recording this session, so don't feel like you have to take notes or write things down. You can if you want to, but we're going to be telling you all of the free tools that I use. And then we also have a mastermind program that we do for a lot of the more elite software tools, GPTs, and assistants that I've personally created myself and sold to my friends and family to help them land their roles. So I wanted to put something together here and do something special for the Advantage Learning audience. So if everyone's ready to go, let's do one more refresher, do a quick stretch. Oh, we'll make sure we're all set to go. So again, a little bit more about me. This is the same tools, the exact same process that I do. And I want to make sure my screen share is coming through. Can someone do like a Zoom chat, like a thumbs up or like yes, just to make sure you can see my screen? I want to make sure you all see my
Okay.
screen from LinkedIn. Is it coming through
Digo,
okay?
¿quieres
Oh,
ayudamos?
good. Fantastic. I love it.
Tenga
Good.
carburito.
Excellent. Well, this is just a screenshot from something that I've used in my background. And if anyone has a question, I can only see a few things on my screen. So feel free to interrupt or put something in the chat. I'll pause and we'll make sure we cover everything in about 30 minutes. And we'll leave plenty of time for question and answers. But this is a screenshot from my most recent time when I needed to find a role. Once I turn on the system I'm about to show you, for me personally, I have very atypical results, but I'm accustomed to getting several interview invitations per day. And so I'm not going to gatekeep that. I'm not going to hide that from any of you. And part of it comes from having a fantastic portfolio, keeping yourself organized with your interviews, and knowing how to present yourself.
Te
Cesar,
golpeé.
I see some questions there. Anything I can clarify before we get started?
No, please.
Excellent. I love it. All right, so a little bit about me. Again, like we've mentioned, my this is the same system I've learned and created for myself. So in my career, I've had to just block interviews, land roles quickly, and that's what I want to help all of everyone within the program as well. It's great to have the knowledge, good to have a resume, and in a lot of instances, that doesn't fully cut it anymore. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of highly educated, highly skilled people in the workforce today in October 2025, but getting noticed and getting the attention is the current bottleneck that a lot of experts are struggling with these days. So this is all the steps and all the guides I'm going to recommend everyone should have to build that roadmap for your interview life cycle so that you can land the interviews, land the introduction conversations, and get things going. So first and foremost, it may seem like a silly thing, but you want to have a very professional email. Um, in the United States, people sometimes have fake emails or emails specific for job hunting. You want an email that is going to be how you want people to respond to you. So if you want folks to call you Anaket or Nisarj or Cesar, totally fine. Just make sure your email looks similar to your name. My email is very similar to Nathan Platter at like one of the US domains. So a clean email. You also want a Google Drive of your portfolio. And I'll cover what should go into that portfolio as well. But every time you talk to an interviewer, a recruiter, a hiring manager, you want to be able to show them you've done the work and you have the knowledge, not just telling them. So I'll go over in a moment or two what should be within that portfolio. I personally like Google, so I created a Google Gmail specifically for when I'm looking for jobs. And inside of that free Google account, you can create a Google Drive folder that will contain some code, some certifications, references, everything you could ever need for a reach out. And then you also want a shortened URL for your portfolio. And I'll go over it in a moment. I use a platform called Bitly, and that's a phenomenal way to attach that to your resume. So in my resume, it has my name, my phone number, a link to my LinkedIn, as well as a link to my website. And you want it nice and short so that it's easy for people to click on. Along with that, you want to be able to do some video follow-up. So I use a tool called Loom. You can find it on loom.com. And if you saw the post on LinkedIn, that's the exact same tool I used. We'll go over why video is very important in a moment, but you want that visual and that sound familiarity when you're talking with interviewers, hiring managers, or taking coding assessments. I highly recommend you also sign up for a free Zoom account. I personally pay for one because I do a lot of Zoom meetings like this, but you want a way to have video conversations, whether it's WhatsApp or Zoom. And then I also highly recommend a tool called Calendly. Calendly connects to your Google Calendar and any of your work calendars so that people can book an appointment with you. A lot of times, hiring managers and staffing agencies are trying to schedule a time with you. And like we had today, there's time zones, there's different times of day, times of week. And instead of texting or emailing back and forth, it's best if you have a booking tool similar to if you were to have a hair appointment or a car appointment. You want to have a way for someone to schedule a meeting with you very easily that flexibly works with your time zone adjustments. Again, that was calendly.com. It's free. I pay for a fancy version. Highly recommend that people get that as well. You can put that in your resume and your LinkedIn along the way. Now, something that I found a lot of success with is the power of having a very familiar voice. You want folks to be able to hear your voice and to make sure that they are very comfortable with what you sound like. A lot of times when they meet you for the first time, they may not be used to accents, wording, nuances. They're getting to know you for the first time. So you want to send a pre-interview email, kind of like we did the announcement for today's webinar. You also will use something like Loom after your interviews to do a thank you or a follow-up so that people are familiar and comfortable in viewing you as a friend and a peer rather than
Me cayó,
simply another
me
person that they
cayó,
interviewed along the way. And I've had
me
a lot
cayó.
of success with that.
Bye-bye.
Yes, Cesar, I hear that you had a question or a point on that. Oh, just wanted to double check. All good? Excellent. Sounds good. We can keep progressing then. Feel free to drop something in the chat. If a question pops up, happy to answer it along the way. All right. Now we're going to dive into LinkedIn. LinkedIn is how I personally generate at least 10 interviews a week. And so that's what I've done. It's very atypical results. But what a lot of hiring managers and directors and recruiters are looking for is not just knowledge or certifications. They're looking for folks that are thought leaders in their space. For us, specifically petroleum, oil and gas, engineering, they want to see that we have the confidence, the ability to present, and to communicate results for the work that we do. So on LinkedIn, you can adjust your profile. So instead of a generic free account, in the top right section, there's three dots. When you click on those dots, you can customize the URL that you have. If you go to my URL for my LinkedIn, you'll notice that it says LinkedIn /Nathan Platter. You want to make it custom specific to your name so it looks a little bit more professional. I also recommend getting a professional headshot and not something that is AI generated. I actually used AI and GPT and Gemini to create a headshot for me, and my results for interview invitations dropped. Right now, a lot of hiring managers want to work with humans and freshers, and they want to make sure that you have a real personality. So I would recommend not using an AI generated headshot along the way. In your featured section, you also want to have it read like the India Times articles. You're going to want three numbers in your About Me section. You're going to want integers, currency, USD or rupees, as well as percentages. You need to be able to quantify your business impact, whether it's number of hours saved, gallons or metric tons of work accomplished, percent increase in production or productivity. And you need to be able to quantify so that when you have annual reviews or quarterly reviews, your hiring manager knows that you can prove the value that you're delivering and that you're able to show that you have the impact that you're saying that you have and you can prove your value. I believe it's that way in the US, or at least when I've had it. It's probably the same way in New Delhi as well. So we'll pause there. We're going really fast. I know this is a lot of content, but you want to have a Google account, an email specifically. You want to have a great Google Drive for a lot of the portfolio that you're going to show. You also want to have something like a Calendly or a video conferencing tool and Loom. Anything I can clarify so far? I know we're going really fast, but I want to give as much free value as I possibly can. Any open-ended questions? Should we keep proceeding? I'm going to pause and grab some water real quick. All right, good. Looks like we're making good time. We'll keep proceeding. This is phenomenal. All right, so on this next section, like I mentioned, in every part of your resume and your LinkedIn and your portfolio in Google Drive, you want to have three numbers everywhere you possibly can. Again, that's going to be currency, either US dollars or India rupees. You're also going to want percentage, either increase or savings, as well as integers, number of people managed, number of wells worked on, number of projects started and completed. When hiring managers are making decisions to bring you into the company, they're trying to figure out if what your salary is, but they're also trying to determine what are you going to deliver for them? What's the value you're going to bring? Are you going to save time, increase revenue, reduce expenses? They need to know that you can both do that and track it so that when it comes to performance reviews, salary increases, and everything similar, that you can quantify your business impact. So I've coached probably 70 people on their LinkedIn and their resumes, and all too often I see something like this. Someone is very goal oriented, high energy. They completed a certification. Those are good things. You also need to demonstrate the business impact. So whether it's a number increase, again, percentage or revenue savings, you've mentored and trained and developed so many peers, that's going to be something to work on. And in our premium program that we'll talk about at the end, I have some tools to help flesh out what some of those numbers are for your specific case. And so we don't want to put fake numbers in. We're not going to lie about our impact, but it takes a little bit of thinking and masterminding to make sure we can quantify the business impact that we have. Now, when it comes to the LinkedIn and the optimization, right now, when a job gets posted, there's, depending on the location, then the work setup, there's anywhere between 200 to 3,000 applicants for one specific role. Now, my number rule of thumb is it takes about 50 applications to get one interview. So for 50 roles that I applied to, I assume I'm going to get one interview. Now, that's a lot of applications.
La última vez que
What
operaron
I've
a
had
Luis
more
se fue
suc
con
Oh, my apologies. Did you say have something, Cesar?
fui operada. Bueno, pero bien muy fuerte, salió bien, salió por la noche, se fueron para el apartamento y al otro día amaneció.
Oh,
You can mute yourself, please.
okay.
Luis, al otro día.
All right, there we go.
Nathan,
Yes.
since
All
you
right,
are
I think we
host, you
got.
have an option to mute the participants.
Oh, excellent. There we go. We'll make sure we're muted. Cesar, feel free to unmute if you're ready to ask a question. Happy to be a resource for you. So I think we're now good. Excellent. So what I found, at least in my job search, I don't want to apply 50 times to get one interview. I want people to come chasing after me. I want people to be drawn to my personality, my portfolio, so that I'm overwhelmed with interviews, that I have too many things to go for. So what first and foremost on LinkedIn, you want to have an optimal headline. So if you go to my page or Advantage Learning page, there's a certain formulaic structure that you should have that goes about your current or your target job title, the technology or software tools you are very comfortable and excellent with. And then you also want to have a bold statement on the value you bring to the employer. So rather than just saying motivated worker, seeking new opportunities, or something similar, you want to have something that when a recruiter looks for you, they find you at the top of the rankings, and you want to be in the top 10% of LinkedIn profile sections if you want people to start reaching out to you. So in terms of resumes and formats and how do we even get ourselves up for those applications or people finding us, in the United States, one of the top programs in the entire world is Harvard. You've probably heard about Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Harvard, believe it or not, has one of the best alumni programs in the entire world. And surprisingly enough, they give away the alumni resources for any of the general public to use. So I just put it into our chat here. It's the Harvard College Bullet Point Resume Template. Basically, they give away all of their alumni tools to all of their students and everyone in New Delhi and the US so that we can have a resume that looks like it came from a top tier university. You still need it to have your name, your email, your content, but this is the format that will get into the application tracking systems or ATS that LinkedIn loves to promote when you apply for a role. And any of the job platforms you'll search, this resume fits the criteria far better than any other ones. I've used a paid program called Enhanced CV. Sometimes I found places that want a more artistic resume, but for our petroleum expertise, probably not as relevant here today. I would highly recommend using the Harvard resume template. Just now dropped it into our chat. That's the exact same format I use to get a higher response rate from recruiters. Now, inside your resume, you're going to want three essential links at the very top. So you're going to want your name, your professional email, and your WhatsApp or your cell phone number. The three links you're going to want, one of them is your calendar booking tool. So when someone sees your resume on their laptop, all they do is click and they can schedule an interview with you. I kid you not. I have had people I've never talked to. They've clicked on my Calendly booking tool. They've booked a time to interview me, and all they did was found my resume and they scheduled an interview with me. You want to be easy to find and easy to contact, and Calendly is the way to do it. You're also going to want a shortened URL to your Google Drive portfolio. Now, this is going to be where you have sample code, past school projects, copies of certifications you received through Edvantage. I've seen a lot of success with certifications. Also, a copy of your resume. This is a very important link that you want to have as well. And then finally, your LinkedIn URL. When people see your resume, either in Word or PDF, you want them to easily click on it, go to your profile, and see your entire portfolio. Very important. You also want to have a very strong keywords. So don't just do oil or gas or petroleum. Put in specific tools that you've used, whether it's R, Python, certain engineering software tools like CAD or any mapping tools or any GIS scoping tools. Put in things that you use on a day by day basis, since that's an additional filter that our specific recruiters want to find us for. Again, you want to quantify your achievements, integers, currency, and percentages. And then finally, your technology stack. For me, I'm in data and analytics quite a bit, but I don't just say data and analytics. I mention the tools like Tableau, Power BI, Redshift, things that I use on a day by day basis, because that's a proof that I know what I'm talking about. Now, what I often see, this happens more and more time again. Very few people in school or freshers out of university don't have a long portfolio. That is okay. I'll show you a picture of my portfolio even right now. And I'll go ahead and feel free to look at it now, but this is the portfolio I share whenever I am interviewing. So just want to double check. Is my screen still showing? Is it showing the candidate packet? It looks like a Google Drive. Can someone do like a yes or a Y in the chat? I want to make sure it's coming through instead of the slides here. We should be seeing like some Word documents or some PDFs. Is that coming through for everyone? We'll do a quick double check. We'll make sure we're all good to go.
Perfect.
All right, I love it. So this is my candidate packet. I show this to every recruiter, every hiring manager that I ever talk to. And this is what I would recommend the Advantage students have as well. Include a cover letter. And I don't mean just a cover letter for a specific job. I use this as my work mission statement. So when I'm reaching out to employers, this is what I, Nathan Platter, am looking for in my job opportunities. This shows that you know who you are and what you're looking for. I also do a document that has links to projects that I've worked on in school. And it's again, it's a Loom video. So this is a Loom video that you can create for free, and it walks people through projects that you've worked on and the impact it made for the things you did. I also like to share screenshots of prior work. And for company confidentiality, I would recommend not showing the actual details of the project, but how you can design and lay out and deliver things that you've worked on for school or for internships or certifications that you've done. In my field of work, a common question I get is like a technical or a coding assessment. And what I've found is based on of individual work that I've done, both in school and in work, I've saved some of the code that I've written that showcases the skills and expertise that employers are looking for. So don't give away anything proprietary, but show that you know how to do the work and deliver the code and the value. Every time I interview, whenever someone says, "Hey, tell me about a time that you had to run a project or do a mapping or an exploration," I don't make something up on the spot. I keep this internet browser up on the side and I simply share links to the interviewer and the hiring manager saying exactly this is what I did. Here's an example of that work. And here is exactly the answer to the question you were looking for. It saves a lot of time on follow-ups, and it also gives you that confidence that you know what you're talking about fresh out of school. So I would highly recommend that specific to your the projects, any internships that you've done, gives a lot of confidence and deliverability. Now, something that we're going to do in our program that's more paid and Advantage and I are ironing out the details on is our automated response system. So I've saved 18 different kinds of email responses that I send back to every email I ever get, whether it's a recruiter, an invitation, someone wanting me to do project work. I have 18 standardized responses that either says, "Sounds good, let's talk," or "Hey, what's more about the role?" And so you don't want to repeat the work you do over and over again. So you want to have templates so that you can quickly respond to every opportunity, whether it's on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, or email. And you want to have a flow on all of your responses. Now, sometimes people will say, "Hey, thank you for applying. We're not going to move forward." They still should get an email response. I've had people that reject me from a role, and I send them my response that it shows I'm still interested and I'm grateful for the opportunity. And that's converted into some interviews because they appreciated the politeness and the courtesy. So even when you get a rejection or someone saying, "Hey, no, thank you," you want to have a response for every email you ever get. And that'll all be in our paid program. The first three I'd recommend for free is definitely an email template for confirming you want to interview, an email rejection email saying, "Hey, thank you, would love to talk further," as well as a sequence that I'll show here in a moment. So these are going to be ones that are very important. If someone has invited you to an interview and they're ready to follow up and you don't hear from them, I recommend waiting 7 calendar days until you follow up on your own. You're going to want a program or a system to track every interview that you're in the pipeline for, and you'll make sure that you don't lose track of any of the hiring managers or recruiters. If it's been 7 days since you've heard back from next steps or the interview scheduling, go ahead and follow up like, "Hey, is this a still priority? Is this something that matters to you?" And if not, just move on. I recommend at most 3 email follow-ups and do the exact same follow-up that's very professional and shows that you are still interested in this specific position. Now, I implied it just a moment ago, but you want a solid Excel sheet that tracks all of your job opportunities. In my career, I've had over 350 first round interviews. And so in total, it's a little over 1,000 total interviewers from second, third, and fourth round opportunities. And I've never forgotten about a role. I still have that in my sheet here to this day. And that's something that I want to share with our students here as well in our course program so that everyone can keep track of every role you've ever had, every interview you've ever had. And 3, 4, 5 years from now, if you're looking for another role, you have your entire list of every person in their lifetime that has shown interest in interviewing you, Cesar or Magesh or Nitish, And so you can follow up and build your network and say, hey, it didn't work in 2021. How about 2025? Do you still need help with this role? And I found some roles doing that as well, just keeping track and not losing your network or letting it go cold. So, along with all of this, you want to make sure that it's a numbers game. The numbers that I've had in my career early on with my fresh out of school, it takes about 50 interviews, so 50 applications to get one interview, one first round interview. And I'm very experienced with interviewing, with a lot of handling tough questions. In general, for me, it takes about 20 interviews, 20 first round interviews to eventually land an offer for me to accept at the very end. There's going to be second round interviews, technical assessments, like a peer review. And I know I need about 20 first round interviews to land that final offer at the end. So that means you're going to need to have a lot of volume. It comes out to about 1,000 job applications to land an offer. Now, granted, that's for someone with some experience, someone here in the United States. It might be bigger or it might be smaller for the New Delhi market, but I want to make sure you have what you need to have that volume as well as the follow-up system along the way. So you're going to want to be able to have applications that scale up volume. I'd recommend not using AI to generate resumes or cover letters. And I was actually talking to a recruiter about 2 weeks ago, and something that they mentioned is when they review resumes that are 0 to 70% of a match, they do not look at. Resumes that are 70 to 90% match, they look at those resumes. But resumes that are 95 to 100% of a match, they do not look at those resumes. There are so many free tools and paid subscription tools today where you can create an AI generated resume that people are excluding them because they think that that's a fake candidate, that someone does not have the expertise, that they're not a real applicant. And so you want to be in that 70 to 90% match rate for the roles that you're looking for. And so once you have your core resume, stick with that and don't use any of the tools to get a custom resume to perfectly match every opportunity. At the end of the day, even if you have phenomenal interviews, phenomenal applications, you're still going to only get an invitation at best 10% of the time. When I was on fire and everything was going perfectly well, 10% of my applications yielded one interview. So don't go for 100% or even a 50% interview invitation rate. Target 5% and you're crushing it. You're doing phenomenally well with your LinkedIn posting, which yes, you should be posting once per day. You should also be engaging on 3 other comments or posts per day. And you also want to be scheduling 1 or 2 informational interviews per day to build out your network. There are still people I meet with that I haven't talked to in 3 years, but I still keep in touch with them because they may be able to help me in the future, and I may be able to help them in the future as well. Right now, there are a few professors in my circle that are wanting to be involved with Edvantage, with other teaching modules, that are wanting to help upskill our students. And it's important to keep your network top of mind and warm throughout the years so that you're able to have that roadmap. So, along the way, we've covered a lot of topics. Since our last checkpoint in your Google Drive, you want to have samples of code that you can write, different projects that you've delivered to either your professors, to your internships, to your roles, as well as you want to have screenshots of what you've been able to deliver. Now, again, don't give anything proprietary. That's something that you're responsible for, but you want to show you understand how to take in a project, deliver the work, and ultimately deliver value to the business. And you know whether it's an integer, a currency, or a percentage of the value that delivered. Now, again, I don't want to overpromise this. When I've had everything running perfectly and my systems are going, I've landed more interviews than I know how to land. I want to help everyone here land at least 1 interview per day so that within a month you'll have about 1 job offer. Now that's going to mean to land 1 interview per day, again, it's going to need to be about 50 applications, or better yet, getting people reaching out to you to invite you to interviews. And that's something that's going to be very important in our paid program. Now, something that's going to be very important here in our paid program, we've covered a lot here today. I'm going to share the resource that I use to create a custom website for every interview you ever have that's specific from your background to that job opportunity. And it's a 10-page website specific to show why you are the candidate for this role with this hiring manager. Very professional. I've had an 84% success rate moving to the next interview using this same tool. You also want to have an interview prep tool that tells you about the interviewer's background. Gives you a 30, 60, 90-day plan for onboarding onto a new platform. And it shows who you're going to meet with and who to schedule time with as you get up to speed. I also want to, in our paid program, give away a list of 50 oil and gas agencies that you should upload your resume to today, so that there are over 2,500 recruiters and sales reps trying to land you a job because they don't make a lot of money getting you employed. Once I've done that, I've uploaded it and gotten 2 interview invites per day just from that same list myself. In our paid program, we're also going to have the 18 or more email templates so that you can respond to every opportunity, whether through LinkedIn, WhatsApp, or email, and you're able to progress those interviews from start to offer. We also want to make sure everyone here has an Excel sheet to track all of your interview invitations. Whether it's an intro, a mid, or near the end of an interview line, you want to have a document to tell you who to email, on what channel like WhatsApp or LinkedIn to follow up with, and to stay organized and never forget all these contacts you're building along the way. We also want to give you a guide on what your follow-up should be after an interview. I specifically recommend Loom so that you can record what is valuable to you, what's valuable to the team, and you can secure and lock down that second round interview. We also want to give you a custom resume and LinkedIn optimization kit. Most of the time, I find people have a score of about 30 out of 100, and I want to get you to that 90 and above score system. And once you hit that, at least an 80 or above, you'll get about 2 recruiters per day reaching out to you simply from LinkedIn and nothing else. And that's a tool we want to help everyone here use and get on board with. From there, we also want to have a tool, a GPT that I've used with my students and myself to get the perfect headline, since the headline in the About Me section is the #1 ranking tool recruiters use when finding people. And then finally, 2 more items in our paid program. We also want to have the perfect About Me section. You'll be able to quantify your impact, describe your work experience, tell a little bit about your personality, and have that About Me section give you a magnetic experience so that people are coming to you and inviting you to interviews, and you're not begging for an interview from that last one. Third, or I guess last and finally, that's a lot of value there. I also want to give away the tool that I use to build out my network. I use it this morning. It both builds connections, it establishes relationships with recruiters, and one of my students, Manju, actually is using it, and she's scheduled 4 interviews this past week with senior VPs at manufacturing companies by promising them a case study, an email follow-up sequence, and a custom website. And she'll be securing a role that'll probably be 70% higher than her last role. So without disclosing her salary, she'll get about a 70% pay raise because of this system that works for her in the background. And all she has to do is set it up and get things going. So part of this is landing a role. You want to have a great portfolio, you want to deliver the value, but you also need to have a way to build your network, build those connections, and ultimately grow your brand authority on the platform. And OPX and Advantage are the best ways to really do that. Right now, the certifications and the courses are huge for building up the credentials, the post-university knowledge, and we want to get you out into the marketplace so that you're able to deliver the value, land the roles, and continue your career in the direction you want to take it. I'll pause here. I know there's a lot of things here we've mentioned, but I'm excited to be working with Advantage. They've really changing the market when it comes to the different certifications and the expertise that the market really needs. And I want to help the students get those interviews and those opportunities along the way. So I'll pause here. I'm going to grab some water. Surij and Nitish, any questions from the students? I'm going to pull up my other chat here, and we can do open question answer for any time remaining here.
Yeah, Nathan, thank you. Thank you for a wonderful session. Actually, it was so insightful. I hope the participants had a great insight from today's meeting. And I'm quite sure that many will be joining, catching up the recordings because because of this time lapse, time issues, time zone
Absolutely.
issues, we many students who are interested actually have messaged me personally that we will be catching up with the recordings and they will get back to us based on the recording session. So I think
Excellent.
for the time being, we can wind up right now.
Excellent. Sounds good. Yeah, all the questions I have here are from one of my premium student groups. So we can wrap it up here, and happy to share the recording, and highly would recommend folks take advantage of the premium service that Advantage and I will be creating and releasing to the rest of the audience very soon. Let's get you hired and let's get you certified. And thank you for inviting me today. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan, thank you, and
Anytime.
yeah, have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. You too.